3 of the girls that are in the program with me, because there's always a lot of questions you guys have that I can't always answer. So Christy was on bond first of all, and now she's in drug court. She's been with us over a year.
Right.
Chrissy is in full day report, and she's been here for a while, and Deanna's been here almost a year as well, and she's in drug court. So these girls have volunteered their time this morning to come and answer any questions you may have about the program, how it's helpful, what the classes do for them, any questions you guys may have for them.
That's great. I'd like to hear from one of them. Just extemporaneously, what do you think about the program and how has it helped you?
Without this program, we wouldn't be able to have jobs. We wouldn't be able to... I got my GED. I quit school 6 years ago. It took me almost a year to get that, but I worked really hard, and with the help of Day Report and them pushing us to do those things, I got a job. My son's very well taken care of. We have parenting classes on how to teach you to do that. We have life skills, which is basically it teaches you how to relive your life all over without using drugs or alcohol. They push us hard. They're not easy on us, but that's what it takes for us to do what's right and give back for what we've done wrong.
There's an importance about a person like Alyssa to help you, isn't that right? I mean, it takes somebody like her to be able to really get inside your head and to help you, doesn't it?
Yes.
It just can't be anybody.
Plus she gives a lot of support. And support is a big thing for recovery.
Do you, I see 3 ladies here. Do you think the men relate and are doing as well as the women, or is there any difference?
They are, but they don't like to talk as much as us ladies do. And there was a couple guys going to come today, but they couldn't be here this morning, so maybe the next time or in the near future they'll come. I have a couple guys that are now willing to talk in the school, because in the beginning guys just, again, they're just not like females. They don't get up and talk as much. So they are willing to now, and that shows a lot of progress. But this morning it just wasn't. These were the girls that were able to come and willing to come.
We had a Meet the Candidates night at the Hillsborough Library last night, and this topic of how to handle the drug problem, how to handle getting people help, how to deal with it, was talked about a great deal. And the discussion, I thought, was revealing about the number of people interested in this problem, the awareness of it, and I think the recognition that to solve it, it's got to be a community effort. We've got to look at it from the point of view of the schools, from intervention, and of course community corrections was talked about, and I think there was some understanding that your program is a valuable part of the total solution. But I think there was also a statement by some people that the problem is so vast that we may never solve it. We maybe at best manage it. And to do you have a thought about that? Do you think there's a solution out there, or is it a management matter? Well, working with addicts, and they can tell you as well, it's not an easy job, and it takes a lot to change them. And their change doesn't just, it continues on after they're finished. Christy will graduate. Saturday is her last day. It's going to be beyond that for her. How's she going to be able to do it without having to report? Is she going to be able to maintain, you know, knowing that she's not going to be screened anymore? But it goes beyond that, and it's not just here, it's our whole world. Prescription drugs has taken over the entire country, and I don't think that it'll ever be solved, but it can be maintained, and it can be a lot better. They can tell you now it's not as easy to go out on the street and sell. Before here in Pocahontas County, they didn't even have to really hide. They could just go down to the gazebo, and now they can't do that. I mean, it's much harder for them, and the harder that we make it for them,
and push them to do the right thing, the better it will be.
Although I see a needed emphasis on people like this to help them and deal with the problem, I also see an emphasis which is not yet fully applied on the main supplier of these drugs, which would be doctors and pharmacies and Walmarts and Rite Aids and this kind of thing. I see the legislature is far behind in really tightening the wrench on the faucet. You know, it's, if you have a prescription, you have a gold mine, and
But that goes
concerns.
beyond what we can do.
Well, I know it does, but I don't want to place all the blame right here.
No, it's
That's what I'm
not.
trying to say. I don't want to.
We
I
had an
understand that.
offender yesterday that went to the doctor for an abscess tooth. And the doctor was like, oh, let me give you some narcotics, let me give you some narcotics.
Right.
And he was like, no. And it's funny because Chuck said, you know, I went for the same thing and they didn't even offer me any. It's like they know who they can target to get that from as well. I mean, if she would go, she would keep going back. And that is easy money for doctors.
Well, you
especially
see, the
people that
problem
have
is it ought to
Medicaid.
be the doctor saying no, not the patient.
Right.
It ought to
should
be, but it's not. And,
Right.
and that, to
And
me,
they
is a
learned that.
huge concern.
They learn that when they go to the doctors and go somewhere that they can't get that stuff. Chrissy had that experience recently and she was really sick and she went and we encourage them and tell them you got to say this for the rest of your life, not just
Right.
now while you're in day report. Anytime they get hurt, anytime something happens, they've got to say I cannot take narcotics. Because now there are things out there that they can take that are not narcotic.
You said it's getting harder. It used to be that it was just easy to exchange prescription medications, to deal with them, to deal in them. What's making it harder?
What do you guys think? That's a good question for you guys.
It makes it harder because, for one, we're not allowed to leave our homes when you're on day report. That's where you're supposed to be. If you're not at work and you're not doing your community service, you were to be home.
Okay.
So it makes it harder. You have to want it. You can't just say no because you're afraid of getting in trouble. It has to be something you want. So that's that makes it harder because if I want this, then I'm going to do it. If I don't, then I'm going to be in jail or dead so it makes it harder because, and not only because of the program, but because of ourselves. I mean, it makes it harder on us.
Another thing.
That's interesting because
Yeah.
that's, I kind of expected a different answer, to be honest. I thought it was going to be harder because maybe the law enforcement was cracking down more, or there was
That's
more
what some
community
people
awareness.
say.
Maybe that's part of it, but to hear you say you have to want it is perhaps the most important step in the whole process.
What do you think?
Well, yeah, you have to definitely want it. And to me, I think this program gives you the chance and the opportunity to do everyday things and deal with that struggle versus sitting in a jail cell thinking, oh, I can't wait to get out of here and, go party a little bit. And if you do mess up, then yeah, you're going to get in trouble. But I was an addict for many years, and it just comes to the point where I didn't want to do it anymore, and I wanted the help for myself. And I think the hardest thing is to admit that, you do need help.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people's problem is. I had a hard time admitting it for a long time, but once I finally did, I saw that there was help out there. There is people that care and want to see people get better. I think this is a wonderful program because I've now been clean for a year, and that's a great accomplishment for myself, or any addict for that matter. So, and without the support of drug court and day report, plus family members as well, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I'm very thankful for this program. It gives you a reason to get up. You know, some days I think, oh, I just want to lay here in the bed, but you can't. You got to get up, you got to go check in, you got to do your community service and be a good citizen.
Because they give us the classes which apply tools to help you cope with everyday problems, to where before we just cover them up with drugs or alcohol. And, you know, you have to learn to rethink everything and learn to deal with everything all over again. I mean, the classes really do help.
And therapy helps as well, too.
Most people in this program will tell you that we all have our lives because of Alyssa today. Most of us would not be, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't.
You have to want it. And I guess, you know, me coming to these meetings every month doesn't mean that near as what this should today. You guys. I mean, they can speak for themselves. And it's hard for them. It's a struggle. So, but they do good. It takes a while, doesn't it?
Yes.